Thank you, Mitch. In times of strife, it's normal to look for solace. In fact, we must. It's normal to look for the assurance that things will be okay. In our religious communities, I think this is often when we reach for peace, right? Peace is our first answer, our constant, peace being the way. It's often when we double down on our commitment to be a gentle, but not so angry people. But I would say that reaching first for peace, for our own comfort, before we reach for justice for others, it means skipping an important step. In the past week, protests have emerged in all 50 states against police brutality. And in all 50 states, the police have responded with more brutality. Over 11,000 citizens have been arrested in the past week. Countless more have been beaten and attacked with chemical weapons on their own streets. And while American media is caught up in adjudicating when, where, and how it's acceptable to break a window, in the foreign media, our current moment is being described as a great uprising against injustice. What strength do we need to face our current moment? Well, for one thing, I think we need clarity. Frederick Douglass wrote that the thing worse than rebellion is the thing that causes rebellion. We must remember that the worst thing, the worst outcome, is not protest. It's what prompted it. And when I sing that deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday, I'm not imagining the kind of peace where the protesters all give up and go back to being quietly oppressed. When I sing that I do believe we shall all be free, what I'm imagining is not a future free from protesters, free from the terrible scourge of people fighting for liberation. No, I imagine their freedom from brutality. What strength do we need to face this moment? The Reverend Bill Sinkford at First Unitarian Church in Portland wrote this week that we must face the truth of systemic, structural racism if we are to have any hope of changing it. He quoted the prophet James Baldwin, who had written, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." Reverend Sinkford writes, we must face the truth, be present to it, visit the depression and the hopelessness. Let us individually and together face the truth, name it so that we do not remain in either denial or despair, but can emerge more certain of where our hope lies and more willing to move toward it. What strength do we need for the current moment? I think a willingness to move toward the truth. What strength do we need? I think we also need art and music and poetry and beauty. Not to distract us, but to help us distill meaning and gather our strength for what we must face. And so as a kind of homily, we're about to watch an animated music video from the rap group Run the Jewels. I don't know if Run the Jewels has ever been featured in a sermon before, but I derive a lot of inspiration from them. You should know, if you're not familiar, that both of the rappers, Killer Mike and LP and Run the Jewels, are highly respected, critically acclaimed artists, among other reasons because their poetry is very wordy and dense and fast. So I'm going to tell you what this video is about before you watch it so you don't miss anything, because you will. So the first half of the story is told from the perspective of a Black man who watches in handcuffs as his wife is killed by the police. And the second half is told from the perspective of a white bystander. And each of them begins by saying, "It be feeling like the life that I'm living, man, I don't control. Every day is a fight for my soul." So first, black rapper Killer Mike gives the perspective of the black man who's stopped and frisked in front of his own house. The police officer implies that the man must be dealing drugs because he's found with a small amount of marijuana. To which he replies, I live here, and that's what it is. But he's arrested anyway and realizes that his life has effectively ended. His wife, screaming, tries to intervene, and he watches helplessly from the back of a squad car as she's thrown on the ground and killed by the police in front of their son. In the second half, the white rapper LP gives the perspective of a white bystander who lives nearby. Now, like the black man, he too self-medicates with marijuana, but he's never stopped and frisked. And on social media, on his laptop, he watches footage of protesters marching after the woman's death. And he suspects that officials are lying about what happened, saying, the truth is truth, denied or not. He passes, as he goes about his day, he passes banks of televisions showing officials pointing fingers at one another. And in a city that seems to have cameras on every street corner, he finds it suspicious that her murder just 2 blocks from his house was not recorded. But he's wrapped up in his daily struggle for survival, ending with the verse, go to home, go to sleep, up again early, implying a kind of repetition and hopelessness. Some of the images you should be looking for are the orphaned son holding a single candle by himself, then being joined by a few adults, and then more, and then more, and more, as more and more people step forward to support him, gradually panning out to show as many people holding candles as there are stars in the sky. You'll see both of the men sitting back to back, the black man grieving alone in prison as the bars of the cell close in on him. The white man, for his part, sitting alone at home as the reality outside his window begins to close in on him as well. And between them, you'll see a single rose grow from their shared pain. And in perhaps the most poignant image, the orphaned son takes that rose to lay on the ground where his mother was killed, as protesters behind him carry signs in the background. And then the police arrive, carrying riot shields and batons to attack the peaceful protesters, lobbing a canister of tear gas into their midst. I don't find it depressing. I find it sobering, affirming, and galvanizing. In one of the final scenes, a single masked protester, one person, the first to act, a person whose race is unclear, picks up the canister of tear gas and throws it back. What strength do we need to face this moment? It's the strength of song and poetry, of art that reflects the reality of struggle, art from oppressed people. Art that reflects not just the struggle, but the promise of tomorrow, the hope of change, and the desperate need for conviction held close within. It's the strength of having witnessed. And so, let us now witness.